Ladies and gentlemen, 2021 is about to come to an end, and man, this has been a great year for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I mean, just look at it. We got 9 different projects this year, 5 series, and 4 movies, which is just absolutely insane to comprehend. We've gotten new MCU content almost every single week of the year, which is both amazing and exhausting at the same time, because especially looking at past years, like for example last year 2020, we got nothing, no movies, no series, nothing at all. That's of course due to the pandemic, but we took a 1-year break from the MCU, and then Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios, they just threw it all at us this year, which was just absolutely amazing to see. And then you look back even further when times were normal. You look at like 2019, 2018, we only got 3 movies a year. And at the time, that felt like a lot. But now we're getting 9+ projects a year, which is just absolutely insane. But I'm so excited about it because this MCU content is so good. Obviously, there's some misses here and there, but for the most part, this is some great quality content, and I've been absolutely loving it and just loving this journey that I've brought you guys along with over this year of 2021. So to end off the year and celebrate these great Marvel projects of 2021, we're going to go ahead and rank these projects, and keep in mind that this is just my personal opinion. So chances are you're probably not going to agree with me, and I can actually guarantee that there's a couple of these that I placed in odd spots that you probably wouldn't expect and really probably don't agree with, but it is just my opinion, so you can let me know your own rankings in the comments below. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let's jump into this. At the bottom of the list, which actually is going to be number 8 instead of number 9, because I have not yet seen Eternals, so Eternals is not going to be on this list, so sorry about that. I'll see it when it comes out on Disney Plus next month, so yeah, Eternals is not going to be on this list. But number 8 on this list is going to be What If. Now, I by no means dislike the series. I enjoyed What If, but just looking back at it, for the most part, it just doesn't really feel like it was worth it. Like, sure, it was cool. Like, it's our first Marvel Studios animated series, and seeing all these different timelines and realities being explored, it was cool seeing that. But for the most part, looking back, a lot of the episodes really weren't great. Like, obviously, you have some highlights like the Doctor Strange Supreme episode. The T'Challa episode was so good. I had a lot of fun with the Zombies episode as well. But for the most part, like, it just felt not like I'm not a big fan of anthology series. That's what this series was, and of course we did have all the characters coming together in the final episode, but even that felt kind of forced and rushed a bit. Although with that being said, I still am definitely super excited for What If Season 2 and whatever future animated projects come from Marvel Studios in the coming years. But moving on to number 7 on the list, which is going to be Black Widow. This movie came back out in July, and it was just such a long wait for this movie after getting our first trailer in, I think, 2019, or at least early 2020. I don't remember for sure, but it was a long journey between when we first got marketing for this movie and we actually got the movie. And it just did not live up to the hype at all, especially considering that this is supposed to be the last movie with Scarlett Johansson as Natasha Romanoff Black Widow. It was supposed to be her send-off, and just doesn't really feel worth it. And especially, probably one of the biggest reasons for that is because, well, the character's dead. So it kind of felt almost like a pointless story, like there really was no point to the story. So that was kind of a problem I had with the movie, but at the same time, introducing us to some great characters like Yelena Belova. Florence Pugh is amazing in the role. Of course, we later got to see her return in Hawkeye. She's just a great addition to the MCU, along with David Harbour's Red Guardian. I absolutely loved his character as well. But probably my biggest problem with this movie is when it comes to the villains. Because Dreykov, I mean, he's literally just like your classic cliche businessman villain suit guy. Like he just did not work at all. And then Taskmaster is a character I was so hyped and so excited to see in this series, and was just so underutilized. Like, not even the fact that like it was revealed like, oh, it's a female. Like, I have absolutely no problem with that. I know a lot of people like jump to that conclusion and everything. I'm 100% cool with that, but the character just wasn't used that much in this movie. And Taskmaster is such a cool character in the comics, where in this movie she was pretty much just used as like a henchman and like a mindless slave for Dreykov. And really the coolest thing about the character of Taskmaster is their ability to mimic the movements and style of fighting of other superheroes. And obviously we got to see that in this movie, but I feel like pretty much all of it was shown in the trailers, which again is in part due to the pandemic and like the amount of trailers that we had to get for that. But yeah, it just did not at all live up to the hype for the Black Widow movie and felt like it was just years too late. Like, we should have gotten a Black Widow movie back in like phase 2. But yeah, so Black Widow is coming in at number 7. Coming in at number 6 on the list, guys, I told you I was going to get controversial here, so here we go with probably the biggest one, Loki. That's right, Loki, the Disney Plus series, is coming in at number 6. Yeah, so let me explain, because I know a lot of people love this series and have it at the top of the list as number 1 best Disney Plus series of the whole year. And I mean, I have to agree, like, it definitely is, looking at it from a business perspective type thing, it definitely is, I think, probably the best series when it comes to, like, you know, writing and acting and cinematography and story and just all that stuff. But just when it comes to, like, pure experience and, like, fun and just, like, when it comes to my personal opinion on, like, how much I like the show, it is towards the bottom of the list on this ranking. Because I love the character of Loki, but just the fact that it's, like, this new version of Loki in this series, which I don't have a problem with, and I love seeing all the different variants of the characters, but I don't know, it just felt like it was weird having Loki in this whole TVA environment for the series. But then again, I loved Owen Wilson's Mobius. He was a great character, and having Jonathan Majors as He Who Remains in here, Sylvie I think was a great character as well. But really when it comes down to it for me, it's just when it comes to rewatchability. Like, this is not a series that I really plan to rewatch. I probably will right before season 2 comes out, just for a refresher and all that stuff, but I mean, it's not something I'm really excited to rewatch, unlike some of these other MCU Disney Plus series. Like, for example, WandaVision. That series came out almost a year ago, and I am so excited to rewatch that series. Literally next month, if I have time, I'm probably going to rewatch WandaVision because I'm so excited to rewatch that series again. But when it comes to Loki, I just don't have that excitement for this series. Now, coming in at number 5 on the list is, again, another controversial pick, but it's going to be Shang Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, which I love this movie. I really had a lot of fun with this movie. I didn't get to see it until it came out on Disney Plus on Disney Plus Day, November 12th, so that could have something to do with the reason that I'm not, like, a huge fan of this movie, because a lot of the things were spoiled for me and there wasn't really any surprises, but it just doesn't feel like it really lived up to the hype that I had for this movie, which could be totally my fault for overhyping this movie again, like hearing other people's reviews and just the delay of when it first came out and then actually seeing it on Disney Plus. That could have something to do with it. And I really did enjoy really some cool aspects of this movie. Like, Wenwu was an amazing character, definitely one of the best villains of the MCU, and I love all the martial arts fighting style displayed throughout this movie. That's really a highlight of this film and something I was really excited to see. But the problem with it is, especially when you get into the third act, like, sure, it's cool having the whole city fight the dragons and, like, the, you know, those weird little demon creature things. Sure, that was cool, but at the same time, like, I really wish instead of this crazy, big, huge CGI fight battle that you always give at the MCU, I would have really liked to see just a really cool martial arts battle, specifically between Shang-Chi and Wenwu, which we did kind of get, but at the same time it was with the Ten Rings and with just, like, all these crazy special effects that I really wish we just got just more of a bare martial arts fight movie. I think I would have preferred that. And also, one thing that, you know, isn't that huge of a deal, but one character I was really excited to see in this movie was Death Dealer. And then, first of all, he did, like, nothing in this movie and got killed off so quickly. So that was another thing I was really disappointed in. But then again, you make up for it with some other cool things like Trevor. Trevor Slatter's return in this movie was amazing. I absolutely loved him. His comedy worked so well. But when it comes to comedy also, Awkwafina was, I did not find her funny at all in this movie. I mean, I like Awkwafina sometimes, but her character in this movie was almost just annoying and kind of cringy. But again, just my opinion. I know it's kind of controversial, but yeah, so I'm excited to see Shang-Chi too. We'll see where it goes from here. Now, number 4 on the list is going to be The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, our second MCU Disney Plus series, which I had so much fun with because you get to see Sam and Bucky on display here, not only as separate characters, but also as a team and as a duo, because these are two characters that have been in the MCU for the longest time. Bucky specifically being in here since I think like 2010 or 2011, and to see them get their time to shine in the series and really get to see those characters develop, I absolutely love that, especially seeing Sam's transition into Captain America and just all these things going on in his life with basically him not wanting to be Captain America, but by the end coming to that decision that he kind of has to be. And then also things with Isaiah Bradley. Isaiah Bradley was such a cool character. And also John Walker. John Walker is a character that I was not at all excited to see in this series because I didn't really know much about him. But now he's one of my favorite MCU characters, and I'm so excited to see him in the future going forward as the U.S. agent for hopefully a future MCU Thunderbolts project. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. And speaking of villains, we also have Zemo, who I do wish had a more villainous role in the series, but at the same time, it was just so cool. Daniel Bruhl is so great in the role, and seeing him with that comics accurate Zemo mask was so much fun to see. So I really enjoyed those two villainous characters, almost anti-hero characters featured in the series. But when it comes to the series, actual villains, like the Flag Smashers, they were not great. Like Carly Morgenthau, she wasn't that bad of a character. I did like her at first, but it feels like they were like setting up stuff with their storyline that just went nowhere and did feel kind of pointless. And then especially in the end, she just gets killed, and like, you know, they just didn't really fit in as the villains of the series and kind of felt unnecessary. Speaking of unnecessary though, we got the power broker, Sharon Carter. I just have no way to defend this because I was never really excited to see Sharon Carter return in the series. But at least when she did, I was like, oh, cool, it's Sharon Carter. But then when they revealed her to be the power broker, first of all, it just made no sense. And second of all, it just ruined the character because now you're setting her up to be this big bad villain in the MCU. And I just don't care because literally throughout that whole series, as I was watching, people were saying like, ooh, I bet Sharon Carter's the power broker. And I was like, no way they do it. It makes no sense. And then they did it, and I did not like it at all. So yeah, Power Broker was a big no-no. But other than that, I absolutely loved The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Now, coming in at number 3 is going to be the Hawkeye Disney Plus series, which finally shows the world why Clint Barton Hawkeye is so cool and why he should not be as underrated as he is, because he really is a great character and he truly is a hero, as Kate Bishop makes clear in this series. He is an inspiration. And speaking of Kate Bishop, Haley Steinfeld as Kate Bishop, that is just perfect casting right there, and she makes a great addition to the MCU in this series. She's such a cool character that's of course going to be taking on the mantle of Hawkeye in the future, which I'm really excited to see. Now, speaking of the future, we are getting a spin-off series from Hawkeye with Echo. Maya Lopez is another character introduced to us in this series, and she was another really cool character, just showing how badass she is. I mean, she's Native American, she's deaf, and she's got a prosthetic leg. That is some great diversity and representation right there for that character. And also, she's just such a cool character that I'm excited to see where her story goes in her own spin-off series. Now, we also have, of course, as I mentioned before, the return of Yelena Belova in this series, and she makes a great addition, even though she doesn't come in until the second half of the season. I thought she made a great addition. Plus, probably my favorite thing about this series is just the whole Christmas setting. It just brings it all together. It's just like Christmas in New York is just such a beautiful thing. So I love seeing that visualized in this series. It was so cool to see and hearing the Christmas music and all that stuff. Specifically in the post-credit scene, or no, not post-credit scene, but the credits of episode 5, where it played Your Mean One, Mr. Grinch, of course, after that reveal of Kingpin, because Kingpin, Vincent D'Onofrio, made his return as Wilson Fisk Kingpin in this series, and that was another great thing I absolutely loved about this series. Even though the character wasn't handled the greatest in this episode, was definitely Disneyfied a little bit, I still enjoyed his return, and, you know, the comics accuracy when it comes to that character in this episode as well. Now, my only real big problem with this series is just Kazi, because in the comics, that's such a cool character as the clown, and then he just, like, is not a cool character in this series and then gets killed off. I would have loved to have seen him take on a bigger role in the Echo series, but Yeah, Kazi was not a great character here, but other than that, I loved the Hawkeye Disney Plus series. Now, by process of elimination, you're probably going to be able to figure out that number 2 on this list is WandaVision. Another one you probably wouldn't expect to be this high up on the list, but this is my favorite MCU Disney Plus series. I know I said, like, throughout all my reviews that Hawkeye was my favorite, but really looking back, now that I take a moment to do that, I do feel like WandaVision is my favorite because I just had so much fun with this series. It was the kickoff to MCU Phase 4, our first piece of MCU content in over a year. So obviously I loved it, and just the whole experience of it, waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning every week to watch those episodes every Friday morning was just really fun. It was a really fun experience for me, seeing the return of the characters of Wanda Maximoff and Vision, two of my favorite characters in the MCU before WandaVision, now even more after WandaVision. It was just great and amazing to see, and works as a really nice character study for the character of Wanda Maximoff. That's what this series really is it focuses on her mentality and just her struggle with emotion, and I love seeing that represented in this series. Because, she just wants a happy life. She just wants that happy ending with her happy family, her husband Vision, who honestly didn't get as much of a time to shine in this series as I wish he did. I do wish he got more screen time in this series, especially since he's part of the name. But Wanda, of course, with her kids as well. And just this whole sitcom style of this series was something I really enjoyed because I love old sitcoms. So I really did enjoy those first couple episodes where they were full sitcoms. I know a lot of people didn't enjoy that because, it was just a sitcom and it didn't really feel like the MCU. But that's what I liked about it so much because it's so different from what we've seen in other aspects of the MCU. So that was just so much fun. And when it comes to the sitcoms, we of course had the theme songs every week, which were so much fun. I literally have a playlist of all those songs on Spotify that I listen to all the time. It's so good. And the acting all around in this series is just amazing. Elizabeth Olsen is amazing. Paul Bettany is amazing. Catherine Hahn is amazing with Agatha Harkness, who made a really great villain that I do wish maybe got revealed a little bit sooner. But she was great in this series, of course, with Agatha all along. There was really a lot to love about WandaVision. That's really the reason it comes so high up on this list as my favorite MCU Disney Plus series. It's because of that experience of watching it every week, and I just had so much fun with it. Now, a lot of people have this series at the bottom of their list because there's a lot that this left people unsatisfied with, and that's of course because this was such a huge overhyped series. We thought it was going to deal with the multiverse and have all these X-Men characters, and we thought Mr. Fantastic was going to show up. All these crazy overboard theories like Mephisto, which really got out of hand. And sure, I was disappointed when none of those ended up being true. I would have loved them to be. But at the same time, it didn't take away from my experience. The only thing that really tainted it a little bit for me was Ralph Bohner, because, nobody liked that. Sure, looking back, it is kind of a funny joke, but at the same time, it's like they brought Evan Peters back as Quicksilver for a boner joke. I wasn't a fan of that. But other than that, WandaVision is my favorite live-action MCU Disney Plus series so far. And so now, you guessed it, number 1 on this list, my favorite MCU project this year from 2021 is Spider-Man No Way Home. Who saw this coming? We all did, because this is my favorite Spider-Man movie of all time. I've only seen it once. I wish I could go see it more, but I absolutely love this movie. And if you haven't already, you can also go check out my ranking of all the live-action Spider-Man movies, where, spoiler alert, Spider-Man No Way Home is at the top of that list. But it's because it is such a good movie, not only bringing together the 3 franchises of Spider-Man, bringing back all the villains, bringing back other characters that I won't spoil in this video if you haven't seen it yet, but it's just such a great Spider-Man experience, and there's things done here that really make it so that by the end of this movie, it fixes all those problems that people have had with the MCU Tom Holland Spider-Man, saying that, oh, he's just Iron Man Jr., to by the end of this movie setting him up to be his own hero on his own as the true Spider-Man. It's like he graduated from Spider-Boy to Spider-Man, and I just love seeing that transition in this movie. But guys, there we have it, all 9 projects of the MCU in 2021 minus Eternals, ranked in my own personal opinion. Again, you can let me know your own rankings in the comments below. How do our rankings compare? Let me know it down in the comments below. And of course, as always, guys, thanks so much for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video and hit the subscribe button so I can keep you up to date on everything that goes on in the Marvel life.